What is up, YouTube? My name is Evan, and today on Throwback Thursday, we're going to do something a little bit different from normal. Normally, we just add one card and any necessary family members of the evolution line to put it into standard format and see what we could do. Instead, this deck, I took it to my local a little while ago, and I just wanted to play it for fun. This is Mr. Mime and what I call Maximum Scumbag. Because if you're not acquainted with this Mr. Mime from back in the day, he was a lot more fair back then, but with the power creep, his invisible wall poke power is a lot more broken. This guy is originally from the Jungle Edition, and his ability, well, his Pokemon power technically, makes it to where if he's hit by damage of 30 or more, it just becomes 0. So you have to hit him for 20 or less. Needless to say, that makes him very hard for some decks to hit. In fact, there are a lot of decks in Standard that can't hit him at all, really. Which is pretty darn amazing. So his 40 HP actually stretches a very long way. He also has this nice meditate attack, which we're going to try to use because, well, I guess we're not maximum scumbag. We are going to try to attack to win, but we do have some alternate ways to win. So we're not going to be total jerks and just hide behind this guy and deck out or something. We are going to try to actually attack people with Mr. Mime by meditating them slowly to death. But yeah, it's still basically hiding behind Mr. Mime. Speaking of backing up Mr. Mime in ways that are just not nice, we're also running Slowking. This is the Neo Genesis Slowking. His Mind Games ability makes it where anytime your opponent plays a trainer card, any trainer card at all, you have the option, so it's your choice, to flip a coin. If you get the toss right, their trainer does absolutely nothing and it goes to the top of their deck instead. Pretty amazing, pretty horrible actually in a lot of ways too, because you can stack other things your opponents might want under cards they tried to play just to get rid of them, etc. There are just a lot of things this guy can do to people, but basically just blocking them from making plays makes this guy pretty scary. That's the whole reason he's here. Now we are running, since we've got Slowking already, we're also running 2 of the Royal Flash Slowking as well, just to mess with our opponent's energy, because they're going to be pretty hard pressed to do anything to us. So if we can strip them of their energy while they're already struggling with trainers, that's going to be pretty powerful. And to support all those Slowkings, we're of course going to run 4 Slowpokes, and I like the Tailor Slowpoke. He's fine, he's got a lot of HP, it's a good way to go. And for card drawing, I didn't want to open up the possibility of EXs being targeted, so I went ahead and decided, let's run Octillery. This is more of a casual deck anyway. So we're running Octillery for his Abyssal Hand, that's the only reason. And we're running a couple of these Runaway with Wild River kind of Remorades versus the one that destroys stadiums, because we want to preserve our stadium, I think. We mostly don't care about other people's stadiums. So we're going to move on to our supporter line. And our supporter line is 3 Sycamores. We got lots of ways to recur things from our discard pile, and this is pretty heavy draw power. So we're going to run, I think that's what we need there, just 3. And we're going to run 3 Ends, because it's just great to mess with our opponents in as many ways as possible, especially when they're just struggling for every knockout. The ability to then punish them by putting them down to 3 or 2 cards or something like that is just one more way we can limit them, especially with Slowking on our bench. We're also running 1 copy of Skyla, lots of 1-ofs to go search out of the deck, etc., etc. She's just very powerful for us. Just a very good search card. We're also running 1 copy of Copycat. This is a great supporter. For those of you who don't know, she feels kind of like N, but she's definitely not. Basically, you shuffle your hand away and you get a hand equal to your opponent's hand size. So it's a great versus secret target when your opponent draws a bunch of cards or they decide not to play trainers because they don't want Slowking to hit them too hard. That way you can punish them for it by drawing extra cards yourself and put them in kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation. Also, we're running Twins. We got lots of Mons who may slowly get whittled away, whittled down. And this doesn't require your opponent, unlike teammates, to actually score a technical knockout. If they knock out a Pokemon with an ability, as long as they're leading you on prize cards, this is a pain-free double computer search, basically. So it's teammates, but a little less restrictive. And you don't have to have had anything knocked out recently at all, as long as you've got more prizes left. Also, I love this supporter. Marley's Request is I think one of the most creative and interesting supporters to have been printed pretty much ever. She lets you look into your discard pile for any 2, well, she says trainer, supporter, or stadium, but it's basically just trainer cards now. Any 2 trainer cards with different names, and your opponent chooses one of them, and that one goes to your hand. We're also running Puzzle of Time, so this is amazing. You can basically use her to pick the trainer card you actually want, and then a Puzzle of Time, and your opponent is forced to make the choice of potentially giving you 2 Puzzle of Times, meaning you'll get the other card anyway if you wanted it, and another card, or they can just give you the one card you actually want. So it's It's a great card to abuse with Puzzle of Time, but it's just a powerful card, period. It also goes well with Versus Seeker and other supporters. It's one of those things where your opponent really can't win the choice virtually ever. So very nice, very powerful card, really versatile. I like it a lot, but it seems balanced. It's not broken. Our final supporter is Team Rocket's Handiwork. It is our alternate win condition, because let's face it, there are going to be decks that basically Mr. Mime can be expected to score all the knockouts by himself. So this makes sure that they deck out before us, and we can recur it lots between Puzzle of Time and Versus Seekers and Marley's Request. We can definitely Team Rocket's Handiwork quite a few times. Item-wise, it's pretty straightforward. We're running 4 Versus Seekers. I can't count. It's just these are so blinding, it's hard to see the regular one. But this is 4 Versus Seekers. So sorry. Because, all the obvious reasons. We're running 1 Luxury Ball. This is an amazing card. It can't search for a Pokemon level X, but that's definitely not a problem here. But it basically searches for any Pokemon and adds it to your hand, which means that any format it's in, you should definitely be running one. But it won't work if there's another Luxury Ball in your discard pile, so you just run 1. It's sort of like an A spec before there were A specs. I really like that card. We're running 3, I cannot count, 3 Luxury Balls, 3 level balls. 3 level balls, because it searches almost everything in our deck with the exception of the water type Slowking, and we can search him with our 1 copy of Ultra Ball. Remember, we've got Skyla, so we can cherry pick this if we need it, and we could Marley's Request for it if we really had to, but we're not gonna. And we're also running 4, I counted successfully, Trainer's Mail. This allows us to search up our utility, maintain consistency, all the things you basically run that card for. We've got 4 Puzzle of Time. I've mentioned it enough times in a lot of its combos. I really don't need to explain it any more than that. We're running 2 copies of Floral Crown, just to be just as horribly irritating with Mr. Mime as humanly possible, because this heals 20 from the basic Pokemon it's attached to at the end of each of your opponent's turns. So they can only deal 10 or 20 damage to Mr. Mime at a clip, and this heals 20 every turn. So basically, this on Mr. Mime says Mr. Mime can't be knocked out by conventional just attack and damage kind of things, which is pretty awesome. That's why we're running 2, just to be a little trolly too, because it's just a horrifying thing to see if you're on the other side of the table. We're also running 1 Muscle Band, another great Skyla target. This is something to definitely accelerate Mr. Mime's damage. Mr. Mime can actually deal a surprising amount of damage and knock out EXs pretty quickly if he's carrying this. So if your opponent's not threatening your Mime very much to where you might want the Floral Crown, you can easily search for this. And 1 is really all you need, because honestly, they're probably not going to be able to knock out the Mr. Mime anyway. But even if they do, you can always retrieve it with Puzzle of Time if you really, really need it. And speaking of trolly but fun things you can run, we're also running Rock Guard as our ace spec, because how would you like it where your opponent has to deal a piddly 10 or 20 damage to the Mime, but then take 60 back in return? Pretty amazing, especially considering how Meditate, Mr. Mime's attack, actually works. So just an ace spec I couldn't pass up running in this deck. It's just too fun. It's too fun. And we're running 2 switches because we don't want to bother paying our Mr. Mime's retreats. We don't have a lot of energy in the deck. So this is just an easy way to get him or anybody else out of the active slot if we need to, kind of get around people maybe last-ditch efforting Lysanders to try to buy time. That way we can just switch back. Our stadium, we're running 2 Chaos Tower, and it's basically just to erase status. Especially with Slowking backing us up, it can be very hard for our opponents to get rid of it. And we can switch it to the side that gets rid of poison, because that's a problem for the Mime, or we can erase sleeping paralysis if that's kind of an issue for us, whatever the case may be. And our final item is we're running Night Maintenance, which is essentially just a super rod that gives you the option of getting less than 3 things, but it can still get 3 things, so it's just a 100% better super rod. Definitely a good inclusion for us. It's going to be a great way to recur energies and things like that. And definitely reload our Mimes if we have to, especially if like 2 of them are prized or something. And finally, we are running 7 Psychic Energies, just plain old Psychic Energies to reduce the vulnerability of the special energies. So we're not quite as big as a Rossic target or anything like that. And obviously, we don't really need the free retreat on the special energy, so this is fine. Mr. Energy is not really necessary. So that is the deck. Go have some fun with it. Annoy your friends. Make you promise not to ever play it again. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter. Link is below as always, and I will see you next time.